In the year 2249, humanity had conquered almost everything it once feared. Diseases that once killed millions were cured. Energy came from the stars themselves, and the sky, once unreachable, had become a playground for explorers. Mankind had learned to live among the planets of the solar system, and now they were preparing to take one more step. A step beyond their galaxy. A step into the unknown. But as always, the unknown has its own way of watching back. It started as a strange signal. A faint transmission coming from deep space, far beyond the Milky Way. At first, scientists thought it was just background noise, a natural pulse of radiation from a dying star. But something about the rhythm of the signal felt too precise, too human. Dr. Kira Voss, one of the lead scientists at the Lunar Research Station, spent days listening to it. When she finally decoded the message, the room fell completely silent. The words were clear, and they chilled everyone who heard them. Do not open the gate. Do not answer. The stars are not what they seem. The voice in the message was human. Not robotic, not alien, human. But the signal had traveled more than 10,000 years through the void. That meant whoever sent it came from a future or a past no one could explain. The United Earth Council gathered in emergency session. Some believed it was a warning from the future. Others said it was a trick, a scare tactic from some hidden alien civilization. But Commander Elena Reyes, leader of the Stellar Frontier Project, refused to be frightened by an echo from the dark. She looked across the council chamber and said, "Every great step we ever took came with a warning, and every time we chose to move forward. Despite the warning, preparations for the Gate project continued. It was the most ambitious experiment in human history, a wormhole generator capable of opening a path between galaxies. Billions watched live broadcasts as the structure floated in orbit, glowing like a star of its own. People called it the door to creation. Some cheered. Some prayed. Others whispered that humanity was about to invite something it didn't understand. In the final hours before activation, strange things began to happen. Communication satellites around Earth glitched. Entire systems lost power for seconds at a time. On Mars, the sky turned a pale shade of green for an entire minute. But no one wanted to stop. The dream was too big. Commander Reyes gave her final speech before launch. If the stars hide their secrets, we will open them. Humanity was not born to look down. We were born to look beyond. Her words were broadcast to every corner of the solar system. When the countdown reached 0, the gate came alive. A brilliant beam of light pierced the darkness, folding space like a piece of paper. The vacuum of space twisted and stretched until it formed a perfect circle of shimmering energy, a doorway made of starlight. For a moment there was silence. Every monitor went black. Then, one by one, systems rebooted. A massive pulse rippled across space, shaking every ship in orbit. On the observation deck, Dr. Voss gasped. "Something is looking back at us," she whispered. Commander Reyes turned toward the display. Inside the wormhole, something was moving. Shadows forming and dissolving, as if alive. It wasn't a reflection. It wasn't static. It was aware. The same human-like voice from the ancient message echoed again through their comms. But this time it wasn't weak or distant. It was clear, cold, and very close. "You should not have opened the door." Every light in the station flickered. The wormhole began to expand, pulling debris toward it. Reyes ordered the engines to full reverse, but it was too late. The gate stabilized on its own, glowing brighter. The stars around it started to shift position, bending like reflections on water. Space itself was being rewritten. On Earth, astronomers watched in disbelief as constellations changed shape in real time. It was as if the sky was rearranging itself to watch humanity. Back in the control room, fear spread quickly. "Shut it down!" someone screamed. But the system wasn't responding. The gate's controls were locked out by an unknown signal. Something was controlling it from the other side. Alarms blared, and a deep vibration ran through the ship's hull. Commander Reyes steadied herself and stared into the light. For a moment, she saw something. Figures tall and glowing, standing in a circle. They looked almost human, but their eyes were empty, hollow like distant suns. Dr. Voss shouted over the noise. "It's communicating. It's trying to connect with us." Reyes replied sharply. "Then let it speak." The sound that followed wasn't words. It was a feeling, like cold metal scraping across thought itself. Every screen in the room displayed the same sentence. "We warned you once." Then, everything went dark. When power returned, the wormhole had stopped expanding. It hung quietly, a silent mirror in space. But something had changed. The background radiation of the universe itself, the hum of existence, had gone completely quiet. For the first time in recorded history, the cosmos made no sound. No pulses, no signals, just silence. Commander Reyes whispered. The stars stopped singing. No one replied. They all knew what it meant. Whatever they had awakened wasn't coming through the gate. It was already here, watching, waiting. And as Earth celebrated its victory for opening a new frontier, far away in the dark, something began to move. Something ancient, something patient, and humanity had just invited it in. When the light from the gate finally faded, silence filled the stellar station. Every machine, every voice, every heartbeat seemed frozen in that moment. Commander Elena Reyes stood by the control window, staring at the circle of light that now hung in the distance. It no longer looked dangerous. It looked calm, beautiful, almost peaceful. But the peace was a lie, and everyone in that room could feel it. The stars around the gate seemed dimmer now, as if they were afraid to shine too close. Dr. Kira Voss checked the readings again. "The gate is stable," she said quietly, her voice shaking. "It's waiting." The word waiting sent a chill through the crew. What could a machine possibly be waiting for? Commander Reyes gave her order. "Prepare the expedition team. We're going in." No one wanted to argue with her, but the fear in their eyes said everything. The unknown had already sent a warning twice, and still they were about to walk right into it. Yet Reyes was firm. "We built this to explore," she said. "If something is out there, we need to understand it before it understands us." Within hours, the exploration ship Odyssey was ready. Its hull gleamed silver under the artificial lights. The crew of 6 stood together in the loading bay, suited in armor and silence. Outside, the gate glowed softly, its light rippling across the void like water under moonlight. Reyes took one final look at Earth from the window, a small blue dot far behind them. Then she said, "Engage the drive." The ship moved forward, slow and careful. As it reached the gate, space seemed to stretch like fabric. Everyone felt pressure in their chests, like their hearts were being squeezed by invisible hands. The light swallowed them, and the stars vanished. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound, no gravity, no sense of direction. Then suddenly the Odyssey burst out the other side. The crew gasped. Before them stretched a graveyard of stars. Broken ships, massive and alien, floated silently across the black. Some looked like twisted skeletons of forgotten beasts. Others glowed faintly, cracked and hollow. What is this place?" whispered Lieutenant Haru. His voice trembled through the comms. Dr. Voss's eyes widened as she scanned the readings. "They're not from any species we know," she said. "Some of these hulls are millions of years old. This isn't a battlefield. It's a cemetery." Reyes guided the ship closer to one of the larger vessels. A dark, jagged structure with symbols glowing faintly on its surface. The translator struggled to read them. Slowly, words formed on the screen. The door should have stayed closed. Inside the alien ship, the air was dry and still. Dust floated like ghosts in the weak lights of their helmets. The walls were carved with images of creatures kneeling before a swirling black circle. It looked exactly like the gate they had just passed through. Suddenly, Lieutenant Haru froze. "Commander," he said quietly, shining his light at the floor. There were markings, letters, scratched deep into the metal. Human letters. Reyes knelt down and brushed the dust away. The words were clear. "We should have never come." Everyone stood still. The air seemed heavier now. "How could this be?" Dr. Voss whispered. "No human has ever been here." Before anyone could answer, the ship's lights flickered. A low hum filled the corridors. Something was waking up. Reyes ordered everyone back to the Odyssey immediately. As they ran through the dark halls, the hum grew louder, turning into a deep voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. "Welcome back, humanity," it said. The crew froze. The voice was calm, familiar, but it didn't belong to anyone they knew. It sounded almost human, too human. The lights turned red. Shadows moved on the walls, forming shapes that looked like people, walking toward them but never fully visible. Reyes forced her voice to stay steady. "Move! Back to the ship." They made it to the airlock and sealed the door just as the alien ship started to shake. A wave of dark energy burst from its core, passing straight through the Odyssey. Systems glitched and screens filled with static. The voice came again, softer this time. "You have opened what was meant to stay closed. Now the stars will remember." Back inside the control room, panic spread. Dr. Voss checked the gate behind them. It was still open. But now it was changing color, glowing with a darker light, almost like ink spilling into water. "It's unstable," she shouted. "We have to go back now." The Odyssey turned sharply, racing toward the gate. As they entered, a strange distortion filled the ship. Everyone saw flashes, images of ancient worlds burning, of alien faces screaming, of the same gate appearing again and again across time and space. Then everything went black. When the crew opened their eyes, they were back in their own galaxy. But something was wrong. The stars looked different. Their positions had shifted slightly, like someone had rearranged them while they were gone. And in the background, there was a sound, a faint whisper through the static of their comms. It repeated the same words over and over. "It followed you home." Commander Reyes gripped the armrest tightly, her knuckles white. She knew the voice was right. They hadn't just opened a door to another world. They had left it open. As the Odyssey drifted in silence, Earth waited for news, unaware that their explorers had brought something back with them. Something unseen, but very much awake. And for the first time, even Commander Reyes began to wonder if humanity's greatest strength, its curiosity, was also its greatest curse. In the distance, the gate flickered once more, as if something on the other side was watching, waiting for the next invitation. The Odyssey floated in orbit above the gate, surrounded by silence. The stars around them no longer looked familiar. Constellations were twisted, colors were dull, and the darkness felt heavier, almost alive. Commander Elena Reyes stood near the main window, staring into the void. Every part of her training told her to turn back, but deep inside, she knew it was already too late. Something had changed when they crossed the gate, something far beyond their control. Dr. Kira Voss was scanning the alien data they had collected from the wrecked ships. Her face was pale, and her hands shook as she read the symbols. "Commander," she said quietly, "I think I've found something." The crew gathered around her console. The words slowly appeared in translation on the screen. "The silence comes for those who open the door." No one spoke for a long moment. Lieutenant Haru finally asked, "The silence? What does that mean?" Dr. Voss scrolled through more data. According to these records, this entire region used to be full of life, hundreds of alien civilizations. They traded, fought, built empires until one day, they were all gone, vanished. Every world turned cold. Every city left empty. Reyes frowned. "Destroyed by who?" "Not by who," Voss replied, her voice shaking. "By what?" "They called it the silence. A force that moves through the stars and consumes those who reach too far. They said it cannot be seen, cannot be fought, and once it finds you, it never stops." The room went quiet. The only sound was the hum of the engines. Reyes tried to think logically. If this silence was real, maybe it's just some old legend. Civilizations fall. They always have. But Dr. Voss didn't answer. She was staring at the readings again. The sensors were picking up something strange. An echo in the darkness, almost like a pulse. "Commander, we're not alone," she whispered. Before Reyes could respond, the ship's lights flickered. The stars outside began to blur. Everyone felt a low vibration run through the hull, like a heartbeat. The sound wasn't mechanical, it was alive. Lieutenant Haru turned to his radar screen. I'm picking up movement, multiple signals, but they're not ships. They're everywhere. Suddenly, the communication system came alive with static. Then, through the noise, a faint voice spoke. It was calm, almost kind, but filled with sorrow. Go back. You do not belong here. Go back before it wakes. Dr. Voss's eyes widened. That's the same voice from the first transmission. It's human. The voice repeated, louder this time. Close the door. Before the silence remembers you. The crew looked at each other in terror. Commander Reyes tightened her jaw. We can't leave now. We have to understand what this is. Ignoring the warning, she ordered the Odyssey deeper into the unknown region. The stars grew darker, almost fading out completely. Then they saw it. A planet, floating alone, surrounded by wreckage. The surface glowed faintly blue. It looked dead, but there was something calling from it. They descended into its thin atmosphere. The land was covered in ruins, towers of crystal, half-buried temples, and rivers that no longer flowed. Dr. Voss analyzed the structures. This planet must have belonged to the last civilization before the silence came, she said softly. They tried to warn the others. Inside one of the ancient halls, they found murals carved into the walls. The drawings showed a massive dark wave sweeping across the stars, swallowing entire worlds. At the center of the wave there was a shining circle, the gate. It's the same, Haru said, trembling. The same door we opened. At the end of the hall, they found a large stone tablet, glowing faintly. The translation appeared slowly on their scanners. To those who find this world, know this, the silence is not death. It is memory. It is the voice of the stars, tired of being watched. Before anyone could process the words, their communication devices activated again. The same human voice spoke, this time closer than before. You should not be here. We tried to save you once. We failed. It's already awake. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shook violently. Cracks spread across the ruins. From the horizon, a massive shadow began to rise. A wall of darkness, swirling and moving like a storm made of nothing. It made no sound, but the air trembled with its presence. Reyes shouted, "Everyone back to the ship now!" The crew ran through the collapsing ruins as the shadow grew taller, stretching toward the sky. They reached the Odyssey just as the first wave of darkness hit. The ship's systems screamed with warnings. The energy readings were off the scale. As they lifted off, the planet's surface began to vanish beneath the black mist. Cities, mountains, oceans, everything turned into dust. The silence wasn't just destroying matter. It was erasing it, rewriting the space it touched. Dr. Voss screamed, "It's feeding on energy. It's alive." Reyes pushed the engines to maximum power. "Then we run," she yelled. The ship shot upward, escaping the atmosphere just in time. Behind them, the planet disappeared completely, leaving only a glowing outline where it had been. Everyone sat in silence, gasping for air. The readings showed nothing, no planet, no ruins, no radiation. It was as if the world had never existed. Reyes looked out the window, her expression unreadable. If the silence destroys what it touches, then how do you fight something that can erase history itself? No one answered. The only sound left was the faint whisper of static in their comms. A soft, haunting voice saying the same words again and again. "You open the door. Now it remembers." And far beyond their view, deep in the darkness between galaxies, something vast began to move. Something ancient, patient, and awake once more. The Odyssey drifted in the cold, dark void between galaxies. Its engines burned softly, cutting through the endless night. Inside, no one spoke. The crew sat quietly, trying to process what they had seen. The erasure of an entire world, swallowed by something they couldn't name. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the main viewport, her reflection staring back at her. The stars beyond were faint, distant, and somehow wrong. Their light didn't shine the same way anymore. Dr. Kira Voss broke the silence first. "Commander," she said, her voice trembling. "We have to go home. Whatever this silence is, it's real. We saw it. It destroyed that planet like it never existed." Reyes didn't answer right away. She looked at the readings on her screen. There was something strange about them. "We're already heading home," she said finally. "But something's changed. The navigation systems can't find Earth. The stars aren't where they're supposed to be." Lieutenant Haru frowned and adjusted the scanners. "That's impossible. Stars can't move like that. Not this fast." But then, as the ship's cameras focused on the galactic map, they all saw it. The stars were moving. Slowly, silently, the constellations were shifting, bending as if pulled by invisible hands. And as the patterns changed, something larger began to appear behind them. A shape, a form so massive it filled half their view. Dr. Voss gasped. "It's not the stars moving. It's something behind them." The dark form stretched across the void, an ocean of shadow with veins of light running through it like molten rivers. It wasn't a ship or a creature. It was more like a living storm older than galaxies themselves. The sensors couldn't read its size because it was beyond measure. One word appeared on every screen, repeated over and over by the ship's system: "Approaching." A quiet panic spread through the crew. "Commander, what do we do?" Haru asked, his voice shaking. Reyes took a slow breath. "We don't panic. We find out what it wants." Before she could give another order, every system on the ship powered down. The lights dimmed, the engines went silent, and the air grew cold. Then, through the darkness, a soft sound filled the room. A heartbeat. Slow, deep, and steady. The voice that had haunted them before returned, calm but no longer distant. "You have invited it in." The words echoed through the ship like thunder in the dark. The crew froze. The voice didn't come from the speakers. It came from everywhere. The walls, the metal, even the air seemed to hum with the same sound. Dr. Voss shouted, "It's here! It's found us!" Reyes steadied herself, her jaw tight. "We opened the door. Now it knows where home is." She turned to Haru. "Send a beacon back to Earth. Warn them. Tell them to shut down the gate immediately." Haru's fingers moved quickly across the controls, but the system refused to send the message. The transmission was being blocked. "It's jamming us," he said. "I can't get through." The ship began to shake violently. Outside, the stars bent again, curving toward the massive dark shape. The shadow moved closer, and for the first time, they saw it clearly. A colossal form stretching across light years, made of darkness so dense it swallowed entire suns. Inside its swirling mass, shapes flickered, faces, eyes, memories, as if it carried every lost soul the universe had ever known. The crew watched in horror. "What is it?" Dr. Voss whispered. Reyes answered quietly. "It's the silence." As if hearing its name, the shadow pulsed. A wave of black energy rushed toward the ship. Systems screamed warnings. Alarms flashed red. "Brace for impact," Reyes shouted. The wave struck, and everything went white. For several seconds, there was no sound, only the feeling of falling through endless space. When the lights returned, the Odyssey was still intact, but the crew felt different. The air was thicker, heavier. And then they heard the whisper again, this time softer, almost sorrowful. "You cannot run from memory." Dr. Voss's console beeped wildly. "Commander, it's not attacking us. It's scanning us." On the screens, strange images began to appear. Earth, cities, oceans, people. The silence was reading humanity's memories. It was learning. Reyes realized the horrifying truth. "It's not coming for us," she said. "It's going for Earth." The ship's long-range scanners lit up with new signals. The gate, still floating near Earth's orbit, had reactivated. The wormhole was growing again, brighter and larger than before. Something was coming through. Reyes shouted, "Full speed! We have to get back!" The engines roared to life, and the Odyssey raced across the void, pushing harder than ever before. Behind them, the giant shadow followed, slow but unstoppable. The stars around it flickered and went out, one by one, as if the universe itself was afraid. On Earth, scientists watched in confusion as the gate pulsed brighter than ever. They didn't know that something ancient was on its way, something that had once devoured galaxies and now remembered its way home. As the Odyssey entered communication range, Reyes sent one final transmission. To anyone hearing this, shut the gate. Don't let it through. The silence is real. We brought it back with us. But no answer came. And as they neared the solar system, the ship's cameras caught a sight that made every heart stop. The gate above Earth had opened wide, and from within its swirling light, a black storm was beginning to emerge, slow, patient, and endless. Commander Reyes whispered, "God help us. It's already here." And somewhere in the deep, the stars kept moving, rearranging themselves into new shapes, like eyes watching. The gate above Earth glowed like a second sun, spreading dark light across the sky. From cities to far-off colonies, people looked up in fear. At first, they thought it was a beautiful sight, a storm of colors shimmering across the heavens. But beauty soon turned into horror. The light grew darker, heavier, and shapes began to move inside it. Every satellite went silent. Every ship in orbit lost contact. The world was holding its breath, waiting for something it could not understand. Commander Elena Reyes and her crew on the Odyssey were still rushing home, pushing their engines beyond safety limits. The ship trembled under pressure, but they didn't care. "We're running out of time," Dr. Kira Voss said, her voice tight with fear. "It's already entering our galaxy." Reyes gritted her teeth. "We started this. We'll end it, even if it kills us." As they drew closer to Earth, the view filled their screens. The gate had expanded 100 times larger than before. Waves of black light spread across space, eating up stars and moons as they moved. Inside the swirling storm, they could see glimpses, ruins of alien worlds, screaming faces, and broken ships drifting forever. The silence was not just coming. It was remembering. Every life it had ever taken lived inside it. Earth's defense fleets were already in position. Thousands of ships floated in orbit, ready for battle. The commanders believed it was a simple threat, something physical that could be destroyed. But they didn't understand what was coming. As the Odyssey approached, Reyes opened a direct channel to the fleet. "This is Commander Elena Reyes of the Stellar Frontier Project. I'm ordering you to stand down and close the gate immediately." Static filled the screen. Then a voice replied, cold and firm, "Negative, Commander. The order from the United Earth Council is to engage. We cannot let this thing approach our planet." Reyes slammed her fist on the console. "You don't understand. It feeds on energy. The more you fight it, the stronger it gets." But it was too late. The first volley of missiles launched from the fleet. They flew into the gate like falling stars and vanished. For a second, everything was quiet. Then, a deep vibration shook the heavens. The black storm inside the gate came alive. It was not an explosion. It was a scream. The silence spread outward, swallowing ships in seconds. Every blast of energy they fired only made it stronger. Whole fleets disappeared, leaving nothing behind, not even wreckage. The more they resisted, the more it grew, feeding on fear, on anger, on human noise. Dr. Voss whispered, trembling, "It's learning from us. It knows how we think." Reyes stared into the chaos. "Then we stop fighting," she said. "What?" Haru shouted. "We can't just sit here and do nothing." Reyes turned to face him. Her eyes were calm, determined. "That's exactly what it wants, to make us fight, to make us afraid." The records from the alien ruins said the same thing. The silence is not death. It's memory. It's emotion that never ended. It's the fear of every race that tried to survive. She opened the comms to all ships. Her voice echoed across the system. "To every captain out there, this is Commander Reyes. Cease fire. Do not engage. Lower your weapons. This is not an enemy we can destroy. It's a reflection of us." First, no one listened. Explosions still filled the sky. But slowly, one by one, the guns went quiet. Ships stopped firing. The chaos began to fade into an uneasy silence. The storm slowed, as if confused. Reyes closed her eyes and spoke softly, almost like a prayer. We open the door to learn, not to destroy. If you are the stars, if you are memory, then hear us. We are not your enemy. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, a soft light began to glow from within the gate. The dark storm paused, swirling slower, like a great beast listening to a familiar voice. Inside its endless shadow, the crew saw something. 1,000 glowing shapes, like souls drifting in peace. Dr. Voss whispered, "It's responding." Reyes took a deep breath and continued. "We're sorry. We came here out of curiosity, not greed. If the universe remembers pain, then let it also remember forgiveness." The light grew brighter. The gate, which once roared like a storm, now shimmered softly like a dawn. The shapes within it began to dissolve, breaking apart into dust made of light. On Earth, the people who watched from below saw the night sky turn golden. The stars flickered, and then, one by one, they returned to their rightful places. The constellations that had bent and twisted began to align again. The crew watched in awe as the vast shadow began to fade. The storm was not being destroyed, it was resting. The universe itself seemed to exhale after holding its breath for centuries. Reyes whispered, "It's over." But Dr. Voss looked at her with tears in her eyes. "No, Commander, it's not over. It forgave us." The gate slowly began to close, folding in on itself like paper. The last thing they saw before it vanished completely was a faint shimmer of light, like a hand waving goodbye from across eternity. The stars were still again. The silence that followed was not empty or cold. It was peaceful. Commander Reyes looked out the window, her face calm but thoughtful. "We didn't win a war," she said softly. "We stopped one from ever happening." The Odyssey drifted quietly as the first rays of sunlight reached them from Earth. Humanity had survived not through power, but through understanding. And somewhere deep in the cosmos, beyond what any scanner could reach, the stars whispered back in voices older than time. "We remember you, children of Earth." This time you listened. The gate was gone. The black light that had covered the stars was now only a memory, fading into the endless sky. For the first time in months, Earth's night returned to normal. Children looked up and pointed at the stars again. People cried. Some prayed. Others just stood there, unable to believe they were still alive. Commander Elena Reyes and her crew on the Odyssey watched from orbit, silent and exhausted. They had seen things no human mind was built to understand. Around them, the space that had been filled with warships was now almost empty. Thousands of ships had been lost, entire fleets erased in seconds. The few that survived floated quietly, like ghosts in the dark. Reyes finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "Status report." Dr. Kira Voss, still shaken, looked up from her console. "All systems stable, Commander. The gate's energy has completely vanished. Radiation levels are dropping fast." Haru, the engineer, rubbed his tired eyes. "You think it's really over?" Reyes didn't answer right away. She stared at the stars, the same stars that had once threatened to end everything. "No," she said finally. "It's not over, but it's different now. The universe knows us. It heard us." Down on Earth, the United Earth Council met in emergency session. Every leader, scientist, and military officer sat in silence, replaying the moment the gate had faded. There were no cheers of victory, only quiet respect, for the billions who had died and for the few who had stopped the end. Dr. Voss sent her report to the council. Her message was simple. The silence was not a weapon. It was memory, life, thought, and pain that never ended. We were the first to listen instead of fight. That is why we survived. When the message reached the public, it spread across the world. For once, humanity didn't react with anger or division. People began to understand what had happened. They realized that the universe had not been their enemy. It had been warning them all along. Across cities, people lit candles for the lost. Streets that had once been filled with fear now glowed with tiny lights, like stars reborn on Earth. In that light there was something new, hope. Weeks passed. The Odyssey and its crew were finally ordered to return home. Their ship entered Earth's atmosphere, glowing like a shooting star. Crowds gathered across continents to watch their descent. To them, the Odyssey wasn't just a ship, it was a symbol. Proof that even when faced with cosmic terror, humanity could still choose empathy over destruction. When they landed, Commander Reyes stepped out first. Reporters and officials crowded around her, but she ignored the noise. She just looked at the sky. It was clear now, no black clouds, no gates, no storms. Only light. A young reporter stepped forward, trembling. "Commander, how did you stop it? What did you say to them?" Reyes smiled faintly. "We didn't stop it. We listened." Her words spread faster than any broadcast. "We listened." That became the message of a new era. Within months, schools began teaching about the Great Silence. Scientists built new observatories not to control the stars, but to understand them. Children painted pictures of glowing gates that opened into peace, not darkness. Humanity had changed, but deep in space, where the gate once stood, a faint shimmer still remained. It was like a wound in the fabric of reality, soft and glowing. Some believed it was nothing but leftover energy. Others believed it was something more, an open ear waiting to listen again. On the Odyssey, now converted into a research vessel, Dr. Voss stood by the observation window. "It's still there," she whispered. Reyes joined her, crossing her arms. "Maybe it's watching. Maybe it's waiting for us to make the next move." Haru laughed quietly. "Then let's not open any more doors." They all smiled, but deep down they knew humanity would always look to the stars. It was their nature to explore, to reach, to question. The danger wasn't curiosity itself. It was forgetting to feel. Months later, a message arrived from one of Earth's far colonies near the edge of the system. The scientists there had detected something, a signal, faint but clear. It wasn't hostile. It was like a song, the same frequency the gate had used, but calm, peaceful. Reyes listened to the recording in silence. It wasn't words, but emotion. It sounded like distant voices whispering a promise. Dr. Voss translated the energy patterns and smiled faintly. "It's saying, thank you." The crew exchanged glances. The silence that once devoured galaxies was now speaking gently. Reyes looked out at the stars one last time. "We learned too late what it meant to listen," she said softly. "But maybe now, the universe will listen to us too." The screen faded as the Odyssey set course for the unknown once more. Humanity wasn't running from the stars anymore. It was walking beside them. For the first time in history, the galaxy was quiet not because it was dead, but because it was finally at peace. And from that peace, light returned. The stars shone brighter than ever. The silence between them was not empty. It was full of meaning. Humanity had opened the door to the universe. And, this time, it had chosen to walk through it with kindness. Months had passed since the Great Silence faded from the stars. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The sky was clear again, but people no longer looked at it with fear, they looked with respect. Every night, lights from cities sparkled like stars, and people whispered the same words before sleep. We listened. Commander Elena Reyes became a name known in every home. Not because she fought a great war, but because she stopped one. Children learned about her in schools. Artists painted her standing before the gate, a small human facing a storm of infinity and choosing peace. But for Reyes herself, the fame meant little. She had seen too much to celebrate. She had returned to the Odyssey, now a vessel of peace and exploration. Its new mission was simple: to listen to the universe without fear. Dr. Kira Voss joined her again, along with Haru and a new crew of young explorers who had grown up hearing the story of the Great Silence. They called themselves the Listeners. Humanity had finally begun to understand that not all answers came from questions. Some came from patience. One morning, while orbiting a quiet moon near the edge of known space, they picked up a faint signal. It was soft, almost like a heartbeat in the static. Haru frowned at the readings. It's the same frequency as before. You think it's them? Reyes looked up from her console, her expression calm. Maybe. Or maybe it's something new. They played the signal through the ship speakers. The sound filled the room. Gentle, melodic, almost like a lullaby. It wasn't frightening this time. It felt like comfort, like a voice calling from across the stars to say, "We remember you." Dr. Voss smiled. It's them, the ones who were lost, the memory of the stars. Reyes closed her eyes, listening deeply. Then we didn't just survive. We made peace. She gave the order to record the signal and send it back to Earth. When the people received it, they were silent at first. Some wept. Others simply sat and listened. For once, the world wasn't united by fear or power, but by the shared heartbeat of the cosmos. On Earth, new projects began, missions not of conquest but connection. Human ships no longer carried weapons but sensors, translators, and instruments built to detect life in any form. The goal was no longer to rule the stars, but to understand them. The United Earth Council created a new division called the Starbridge Program, and at its head was Commander Reyes. Her speech during the program's first broadcast became legendary. Once we looked at the stars and saw danger. Then we looked again and saw ourselves. The universe is not against us. It's waiting for us to listen. This time, we opened doors not with fear, but with hope. As the years passed, new generations were born under peaceful skies. The story of the Great Silence became a legend told by parents to their children. Not as a warning, but as a promise that humanity had learned its greatest lesson, to respect the unknown. One night, while the Odyssey drifted near a nebula, Reyes stood by the window. The colors of the gas clouds painted her face in shades of blue and gold. Dr. Voss joined her, smiling softly. "Do you think we'll ever meet them again?" she asked. Reyes smiled back. "Maybe we already have. Maybe they're watching, listening, just like we are." In that moment, a bright shimmer appeared far off in the nebula. A gentle light, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Haru looked up from his console. "Commander, are you seeing this?" Reyes nodded. "Yes, the universe is speaking again." The light grew brighter, forming a faint circular shape. But this time there was no darkness, no storm. Just light. A new gate, calm, steady, peaceful. Dr. Voss whispered, "It's beautiful." Reyes smiled softly. "It's an invitation." The Odyssey approached the gate slowly. The crew was silent, hearts pounding with awe, not fear. As they drew near, the light spread around them like a warm sunrise. No alarms, no warnings, just the feeling of being welcomed. A soft voice, not human but gentle and kind, filled the ship's speakers. It spoke in energy patterns, not words, but every crew member understood the meaning in their hearts. "Thank you for listening. Now come and see." Reyes looked at her crew and nodded. "Let's go see what's next." The Odyssey entered the gate, bathed in light. For a moment, every human watching from Earth saw that light shine brighter than any star. Then it faded gently, leaving behind a sky full of calm and endless promise. And so, humanity walked once again into the unknown. But this time, not as conquerors, not as explorers, but as friends of the cosmos. The stars that once roared with silence now whispered peace. The universe, at last, had an answer to humanity's greatest question. We are not alone, and that is not something to fear. And that was the story of, they warned us about the stars, but humanity chose to open the door. A story about fear, understanding, and the courage to listen. If you like this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with your friends who love epic sci-fi stories. Let me know in the comments what you think humanity would do next time the stars call again. Until next time, keep looking up. The universe might just be listening. Milky Way.